I think we're ready to start. Okay. Yep. Yes, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you.
Let the record show all commissioners are present except Commissioner Ritter.
Let's please do the Pledge of Allegiance together. Great. Okay. I don't think we have any special presentations or proclamations today. Nope. Okay. Right. Any oral communications from the public? No.
There are no oral communications.
Okay. Any changes to the agenda?
And there are no changes to the posted agenda.
Okay, great. So we're moved to item number 7, which is approval of the minutes. We've got, once again, 2 minutes to approve, so that's always exciting. Do we have, hope everyone had a chance to review the April 18th minutes. Is there any questions on that? If not, is there a motion to approve the April 18th minutes?
Motion to approve?
Okay. Okay, the minutes are approved for April 18th.
Okay, great. On May 2nd, there was a special meeting, and I hope we've had a chance to review the minutes of that meeting as well. And if there's no comments to those minutes, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 2nd meeting?
Second. Was there a motion?
Not yet.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
Not yet.
Okay. You want to make the motion? Yeah, you can make the motion. I move to accept the minutes.
Perfect.
Second.
Okay, the May 2nd special meeting minutes are approved.
Great. That brings us to our action items. In particular, item 8A, which is the Parks and Recreation Commission work plan. Really, today is kind of the meeting where we need to finalize this work plan, make sure that all of the different stated goals and outcomes are what we're hoping for, and this will really set the stage for what we'll be working on for the rest of the year. Manager Norgard, anything you need to say before I kind of start going through these? No? Okay, great. So I don't think it's necessary to read these aloud. We kind of all have them in front of us or on the screen, but maybe we'll just take a minute, read number 1. I'll kind of give everybody a minute, and then if there's any questions or comments to it, we can discuss. Alternatively, we can start to just go through those. So let's just all read item number 1 there to ourselves and see if we have any questions.
Number 1 looks good to me.
Okay. Any other comments on 1 or 1? Okay. Let's just kind of keep going through. So we'll start reading stated goal number 2. If we can just review those again to ourselves, and then if there's a question or a comment, please feel free to get my attention and speak up.
I'd like to say something about that when people have a moment. Yeah.
Commissioner Mildal, you had a comment on that one?
Yeah, so when I joined the ad hoc here, I was considering the wording as raising awareness of the Parks and Recreation Commission. And the background on this, just to give you folks a bit of background, was that I first learned about this commission just a few months ago when I brought my concerns about, or my questions really about the old landfill site to the group. And later, when I got interested in joining, Commissioner Lapin, your previous chair, mentioned to me how nice it was to have somebody from the public show up and express a concern about the parks. And in my orientation meeting with this group, a similar comment was made about how nice it was to have a member of the public come and say something. And I look out at the audience right now, right? And so in considering this, I added some wording and that to number 2 and ran it by my fellow ad hoc members, Dan and Mike, which basically suggested that we could expand this item to include regular notices in local publications like the Encinitas Advocate, for example, or the Coast News. Okay, and I proposed that writing. But David had some misgivings about it, and he was kind enough to share those misgivings with me the other day, and so you don't see that wording here. And his reasoning made perfect sense to me, and I'll let him elaborate on that. But the main thing, as I understand it, is that really it's probably more the job of the PR department to be reaching out to local papers rather than our commission. So if we don't do it, and if it doesn't become a part of this work plan, it still seems to me a worthy thing to try to make these meetings a bit more visible somehow. If that means the PR department, does looks at that in a little more detail, so that we do get a bit more visibility from the public. Just as one example, I've lived here 25 years. And I'm a moderately well-informed citizen. I've come to city council meetings. I've spoken at city council meetings when there's issues that have come up. I never heard of this commission until a few months ago. Okay, so it strikes me that there could be some more work done, making the commission more visible. Okay, so I'm sorry, that's a very long explanation for why my suggested wording is not in here, and the wording that you see is there. So, David, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure, this is Manager Norgard. That's a pretty good recap. In general, the city has a public information officer whose job really is to put that information out, particularly when we have special events and big things going on. Additionally, through your work plan, which is fairly robust this year, I think there's going to be a lot of touch points with the public. We've already had that with fees. We'll see that again with the field allocation policy. I believe we'll see that again with pickleball. So all of those are going to be opportunities for the public to come. Obviously, all of our meetings are open. However, I think with those work plan items in particular, we're probably going to do some additional noticing to make sure that we get the user groups that are most interested in those items to come. We always welcome folks to come and share thoughts or concerns that they have. Often those tend to fall into the operational category, and I just encourage folks to pick up the phone and call myself or one of the other managers, and we can get that information to them. With respect to this particular work plan item, it really is and always has been about encouraging commissioners to attend events. So part of the commissioner's role is what we're doing here today, to hold public events or public meetings, and then advise city council on policy and things like that. But then also part of that is being the ambassador for the commission and for the city as well, which is another great touch point to help raise that awareness that you've spoken of. So hopefully that's broad enough, and I feel like we made a bit of a split in including some of that language in the intended outcome as opposed to the stated goal.
Yeah, and I just want to say I really appreciate the time that you've put in explaining that to me. and you've always been amazingly accessible, even before I joined this commission, back when I was going to donate the dory, so there's no question in my mind that there's tremendous public connection there. I really was just bringing this up as a point that I don't know how many people know about this group, despite the outreach that's happened. And it might be, if it's something that people think is valuable, there could be perhaps that could be looked at, even if it's not done here as number 2. Yeah. So.
Great, I appreciate those comments. I think they're valuable. And I think they kind of do permeate throughout a lot of the different work plan items. So for example, later we'll talk, or there might be discussion about one of the trails work plan items. I would encourage, when you're walking the trails, if you interact with people there, you could wear your shirt, you could wear your name tag, and it does encourage public interaction, and that is something that raises awareness of the commission and the department. There was an interesting event last year where we were doing a park tour, and we just kind of walked by the tennis court pickleball courts, and all the pickleball players ran over to us and they wanted to talk to us for a second. So someone once told me a long time ago, if you want to meet the people or interact with the people, you have to go where the people are. and that means, whether that means walking by the dog park every once in a while and taking a look and just, you could ask them, how's it going? Those are very informal touch points, which really do get valuable feedback for all of us and for staff. So I encourage everybody to be, on our trails, in our parks. And again, we are ambassadors, and these are mostly kind of just listening tours or listening types of opportunities where people might make a suggestion or have something. So I appreciate your comments. I think they're really valuable, and I think they do kind of permeate a lot of the work plan items, pop-up parks and trails visiting and all sorts of things. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you. I think if there are no other comments on number 2, maybe we'll just, again, everyone could quickly review item number 3, see if there's any changes to either the stated goal or the outcomes for that as well.
This is Manager Norgard. It's a good time to make those edits.
Okay, yeah.
We don't have to edit in real time, but if any of these are in error, just let us know. And at the end, when you make a motion, it'll be as needed, edits as needed, and I can fix that.
Do you want to be off
I'd
that?
like to see somebody else do it. I'll do it if nobody else wants to do it.
Okay.
I
But
did it last year.
you did it last year?
Yeah.
Okay. You did a great job last year.
Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to continue with it, or you can have somebody else join? There's only 2.
Sure, get somebody else to do it.
I could help out.
Okay. So Manager Norgard will be adding Commissioner Meldahl to that one, please.
Can I ask, so if somebody comes as a guest speaker, do they come here and speak like a person here at the
Yeah, so they
podium?
would give a report. You'd kind of coordinate the calendar with Manager Norgard, so that make sure that we had time for that speaker. We usually do. You could talk about a specific topic that either affects the city or affects one of the areas that we touch within the city. In the past, we've had a city council member speak with us. We've had various local businesses. We've had somebody from Outer Spatial, which is the trails map. So it's a broad ad hoc. It's really to kind of educate ourselves, and again, as these are public meetings, educate all of our citizens about what is relevant and happening. So I think it's a fairly broad opportunity to bring in knowledgeable speakers about how they interact with us. So we're on number 4, which is review parks and recreation fees. Kind of this seems to have been one that we've actually achieved and accomplished already. I don't know if we needed to change any of the outcome language to past tense from current tense or present tense. If not, I think it works as it is, and we've kind of made that motion, which was the recommendation to City Council.
So the right-hand column needs to be past tense.
I'll leave that up to Manager Norgard if he wants to edit that.
We can make that edit.
Yeah, something to the effect of approved motion at special meeting on May 2nd. There you have it. Let's kind of maybe, we'll have everybody read sort of 5, 6, and 7, and then we can kind of come back to any of those. So we'll give everybody a minute or two to kind of look through 5, 6, and 7. On number 7, I'm actually joining Vice Chair Ritter on that ad hoc, please. And that's one we've worked on before. Any other comments to either 5, 6, or 7?
Do we have a recommendation from staff about the field allocation policy, kind of like the Parks and Recreation, that we're going to be reviewing and then approving, or possibly approving and forwarding to City Council, or is what's that? What is our job there?
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is Manager Norgard. Similarly, we'll brief the commissioners, go through the policy, and then bring that forward as an item similar to what we did for the fees, and that will include the recommendation,
Okay.
the recommended action.
So you've already worked through, a recommendation that you are presenting to us. Is that right?
Manager Hamer giving input. I have sent versions to the ad hoc committee, and the plan is to meet and accept the recommendations and ideas that the ad hoc committee members want to give forth. So it has not been finalized. We will wait for your feedback, and then we will move forward from there. And then even once it's finalized, we'll meet again to make sure you have a chance to review and make sure it's ready to really come forth in front of the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Great, good comments. Anybody other comments on either 5, 6, or 7? No, okay. These are a little bit longer. Let's maybe look at 8 and 9 first, and then we'll move on to some others after that. I had a question on number 8. Do we know when the feasibility study is expected to be completed?
This is Manager Norgard. The feasibility study is currently anticipated to have first drafts mid-summer, completion late summer, early fall. We did have a kickoff meeting with the consultant to get that task underway, and they're currently working.
And would the commissioners on this ad hoc, like we've discussed earlier today, would they do any public outreach again to kind of determine how some of our policies are working at Cottonwood? Or what would you make any suggestions to the commissioners on that ad hoc?
That's a great question. I think it'd be best for the ad hoc to meet and determine the best path forward. Certainly, more public input is best for a recommendation like this. So I think we would likely want to put a notice out, let folks know of an upcoming commission meeting and their ability to provide input when something comes forward.
And just for our edification, have there been any other feedback that you've received, positive or negative, about kind of how the policies we've tried to put in place over at Cottonwood are working?
What we've heard most recently is that folks are very happy with the nets that we bought for the pickleball priority side. So we bought essentially professional level nets on heavy duty casters that are much more robust. They're easier to move. They're going to last a lot longer. Folks are pretty happy with those. We've heard pretty frequently, when are we going to replicate those nets in other areas? So I think the determination of the policy moving forward will help answer some of those questions.
Great. And just for background for some of the newer commissioners, I believe it was just last year, a couple of commissioners, I know it was former Commissioner Warren, I'm not sure, and Commissioner Hanson, thank you, and Dan, and Commissioner O'Halloran, did a large outreach, had signs posted, kind of held an informal hearing where they invited citizens to come and really speak about what they were seeing at Cottonwood Park in particular, because that was getting a lot of use between pickleball players and tennis players, and that was a great source of information for them to try to understand how to develop a policy to kind of make those types of physical assets, our tennis courts, work for a variety of different constituencies, our pickleball players and our tennis players. So I think this is actually a great ad hoc to be a part of. I think that's going to be very interesting as well. Does anyone have any other comments about 8 or 9?
Well, just a comment on 8. There was feedback received from the on-site. I'm not sure what the name of that role is, but the on-site person at Cottonwood who had been actually monitoring the court usage on a relatively regular basis, at least.
Yes,
every
I can give
Saturday.
that input. Manager Hamer, what we've been having is our field ambassador who checks on the fields and different sites monitor Cottonwood, because there had been some complaints, so we were trying to determine if it was really an issue. So each weekend since I've started with the city, he's been going by and reporting the date and times, how many players are doing pickleball versus tennis, and if there are any issues. I thought it was good feedback, so he's been continuing that, and we will continue that. As I get updates, I'll send it to the ad hoc group. I do know there was input of like, well, what about these courts and this information? I do recommend, if this is your oversight, to definitely, take that visit and outreach directly yourself. And I will continue to have him do this, and I can add more to it, but it's not necessarily supposed to be a staff oversight. It's just staff input. So I will continue to share information and as much as we possibly can.
Thank you. Yeah, the reports that I read, or the feedback I read, that the courts were in very significant use, many more pickleball players than tennis, but no issues whatsoever between tennis and pickleball on the Cottonwood shared courts, and that everyone sounded like they were being very respectful. And I know I had asked for the field ambassador to look at Moonlight Beach courts, and I'm not sure if he's been, or they've had a chance to do that yet. But really appreciate the information coming back from that person.
Yes, Manager Hamer, he has not had a chance to check that, but I can add it and see if he can stop by on different trips around the city when he does his different projects.
Thank you.
The only thing I'd add again, just as it relates to the pop-up parks, again, is this is another great opportunity for, even if you're not on that ad hoc, to visit these pop-up parks, hang out there when we do have public events like that. These are other great touch points that we'll have with, there's a lot of people that come by, whether it's a street fair or any other events that we have where these pop-up parks are there, and they've really been, I think we've only done one, and it was very successful. So I think this is another good opportunity for all of us as commissioners to hopefully be present at these and just be another person that citizens can come up to us either with a positive comment, a suggestion, or something that we can maybe improve upon. So just, I think, going back to what you had said earlier, I think it's a valuable opportunity for all of us. So we can look at, just take another couple of minutes to read numbers 10 and 11 on the work plan, and then we'll discuss if there's any thoughts or suggestions for those. In number 11, there is just an extra letter D in Commissioner Ritter's last name. So
Okay, thank you.
he's got, that's 3 Ds. He only gets 2 Ds. Yeah.
Not where I'm reading.
Oh, I get 3 Ds on mine. Did you get? Oh, he's got 2 on, okay, I apologize. So there's
The
2
one
Ds is the correct.
posted on the agenda had the typo.
Okay.
The one we have on the screen is more updated.
I apologize, right. 2 Ds is the correct number of Ds, right? Which is the same number of Ds he got in college. And we can say that because he's not here, of course. So, any other, I digress, sorry. Any other comments to numbers 10 or 11, or those seem to be fairly correct? Okay, thank you. So 12 and 13 are, I think, kind of summaries of the work plan, and fairly standard that we carry those through throughout all of these work plans year after year. Well, let's see then. Do we need a motion to approve this work plan then? We do, okay. So before we do that, just real quick, I know for some of the newer commissioners, this is really what's guiding our work for the year. I may have said this before, but the staff is really here, we're here to help them, and they're very, very helpful to us. So if there is a question about how to achieve your work plan, or am I on the right path with this, or what would you suggest, they're a great resource for all of us. You can always reach out to me as well, especially if there's only 2 people on a ad hoc committee. That's probably better, or just individually we can do that as well, just to kind of be compliant with everything. If you do have a question about where should I go with this one, I was a little bit confused about it. And that can totally happen because we have these meetings and then we kind of go out on our own, and we don't necessarily sometimes know exactly what's the actual work we should be accomplishing. So just always feel free to ask, reach out if I can help in any way, any other commissioner or staff if we can. So I just wanted to remind people about that. Do we have a motion to approve the Parks and Recreation Commission work plan?
I'll make a motion.
And
I'll second it.
we've got it. Okay, the motion passes. Item number 9, Park Operations Report.
Just a quick point of order. If there are any progress on any of the work plan items that the commission wants to discuss, we can do that before we move on to number 9. If not, more than happy to go into the operations report.
Well,
Thank you.
Can I just ask, just for educational purposes, Friends of Encinitas Park, they're not actually like a city thing, they're private, but they're fundraisers. Is that right?
Tax deductible.
Commissioner Hanson, can you put your mic on? Thank you.
It's a 501c3, and it's intended to augment what the city spends money on.
Okay.
And could be faster if something is an immediate need.
Okay. And so the funds they raise just go right into the coffers of the Parks and Recreation, or?
No.
Okay, they just go into the city.
Right, like, we just got a grant, and the grant specifies what we're authorized to pay for. So the money that we spend will be in 2 of the 3 areas, or 1 of the 3 areas.
Okay, thanks.
And
Just
correct
to
me-
add to that, in general, we have donation forms, and that will guide whatever the donation is for. And so those also fall in line with our procurement policies. So last year, we got a donation from the Encinitas Trails Coalition for a specific portion of trail. So we take that donation in, and it's helped to reimburse the cost for that area.
So if I could just elaborate on that, and maybe Commissioner Hanson, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but there are certain, sorry, I apologize about that. There are certain projects that we all would like to have completed or worked upon, but they may not be slated to do for replacement or improvement for a number of years. So there's other certain types of activities or repairs or assets that we'd love to have in the city. And if a private group wants to get together and propose that and work with the Friends of, pardon me, we used to call it PEP, but now it's Friends of Encinitas Parks, they would then have a real good avenue to try to accelerate, if you would, the accomplishment of one of their goals. It's sort of got to be consistent, of course, with what we're trying to do as a city and what the Parks and Rec Department is trying to do as well. But it is another avenue where private citizens can get together to try to hopefully accelerate or improve certain things that are of value to them as well, as long as it's kind of consistent with the overall plan of what our Parks and Rec Department is doing as well. So money is, as always, kind of challenging to get allocations of, so it's just a way to try to accelerate certain projects. Any other updates on the work plan items that we want to share at this time or not?
I'll just add that I'm going to be reaching out to a couple of the ad hocs to schedule meetings, one for the pickleball work plan item, and then the other one for the Trails master plan item. So we have a couple of things that I think will help kind of get that started. So I'll reach out next week to get some dates for availability to meet either in person or virtually.
Okay. Ready for the park operations report?
This is Manager Norgard with the Park Operations Report. Quick update on Stone Steps. We released an update on our website and posted signs at Stone Steps last week with our last update. So we have kind of an inline update this week. We met the contractor out there today to allow them to daisy chain their locks onto the city locks so that they can get access at any time. And they're going to begin staging materials out there tomorrow in anticipation of getting the final building materials that they need to get started. They do not yet have an ETA on that, but confidence is growing that they're going to get them soon. So they're actually going to mobilize about 4 days earlier than they had thought last week. So things are starting to look better there. Once they do start, they only anticipate they'll need 2 weeks to complete all of the repairs. So fingers crossed that we continue to have good weather and they can get the materials in and get the repairs completed, and we can finally reopen Stone Steps. We also have a couple requests for proposals that are out. Currently, we have one for the monument signs that are at each of our parks. So one of the things that's fairly unique about our park system is each park has a wooden monument sign, and they're all hand carved. Most other municipalities have, granite or metal or something in between that's much more durable. Ours are fairly artistic and each unique to the site. So we released a request for proposals to contract with one or more contractors to either refurbish them or replace them. And so that request for proposals closes on the 30th of this month. And similarly, we have a request for proposals for a park host at Encinitas Community Park. So we have park hosts at Cottonwood Creek and Oakcrest. And so the city provides the park host a place to park a recreational vehicle, and we provide them with utilities, sewer and water, and electrical hookups. And in return, they really just need to be at the park during certain hours, and they act as our eyes and ears and help be a liaison between the department and sheriffs and inform staff what's going on out in the park. And so we have a space at Encinitas Community Park. It's been vacant for a little bit, and so we're doing a solicitation now. That also closes on the 30th, and we've been communicating with our partners at the County of San Diego, who has a really robust park host program, to see if they have folks that are maybe in their network that would be interested as well. And then lastly, I mentioned this last meeting, the Maggie Houlihan Memorial Dog Park at the community park is currently closed for the biannual rest and renovation. We're about halfway through. We've started to see some germination and seed. We're doing sod. We've got a lot going on out there. And that will be closed through the 28th and then open on Memorial Day. So this is always a big time for us at the dog park. As you know, that dog park is well loved and probably one of the nicest, if not the nicest, grass dog park in Southern California. They're fairly rare. And so we close it twice a year for a month to make sure we can protect that asset. And that concludes my report.
I don't recall them closing the dog park twice a year last year. Or twice last year.
Yeah, we did.
I had a quick question. I had read about a change of the amount of parking spaces over at Beacons, and I was just curious, does that at all involve our department? Kind of, could you provide any update on that, any feedback, or kind of can you give any insight into that? I believe that they reduced the number of parking spaces over there.
Parks is involved in as much as we want to, maintain access through construction and protect the resources that we have there. So we have a quick coupler that's in the ground that we want to make sure that doesn't get lost through construction. We want to ensure access to the trail as much as possible during construction. The project went to Planning Commission, I believe, last week, and is moving through the process now. I do believe that there is a minor reduction in the total number of parking stalls there. I don't know the total number. I've seen some incorrect numbers floated around in media, and I would recommend folks that are interested in that check out the Planning Commission meeting. Staff did a very nice presentation at that meeting to go over the project and the needs for the project. And so that's about as much as I can comment.
Great, thank you very much.
I've got a question. I think I read about a contract with Army Corps of Engineers about bringing sand in for our beaches. I don't know if anyone's walked the beach lately, but there's no beach right now. But are we involved, is Parks and Rec's involved in that work?
Yes, that project is led by the city's coastal zone administrator, which is not in Parks and Recreation. Parks is involved for a couple reasons. One, we want to make sure that any programs or activities that we have permitted at that time are not impacted, and if they are impacted, we're able to reschedule them. And then also, Parks obviously is responsible for maintaining a certain area within the beach accesses. So that project is part of a 50-year project, partially federally, state, and locally funded, and is currently working through the process in partnership with the city of Solana Beach, and is slated to begin late this fall. And the sand will be basically dredged from offshore, piped into Moonlight, and then moved north and south from there. So south to Not Quite Boneyards, which is north of Swamis, and then north to south of Beacons. So not quite to Beacons. So it's going to be a fairly large effort, and will go on weather dependent and tide dependent for quite a while. The good news is I was down at D Street today, and I did notice that some sand is starting to come back. It's slow and it's not much, and if the tide's high, you don't see it, but this should be a really good project for the city.
Great, thanks for that update.
Great, thank you very much. The Recreation Services Report?
Yes, Manager Hamer. Wanted to let you know that the summer guide is hot off the press. It was distributed to all Encinitas homes over the weekend, and registration opened yesterday with about 300% increase in registration from 2022, which is amazing, and possibly because of the post-COVID effect, but either way, a great success for the department and for the community to get out and be more active and healthy. The next guide will be a fall-winter combination guide, and we will be starting to work on that in late June. I wanted to point out the second page of the guide does list all our information and all the commission meetings. So this guide goes into every home, and if people open it and read it, they will see Parks and Recreation when we meet and where. So I just invite your friends to read that thoroughly and make sure they keep it as a resource. The movie night in the park was last Saturday. It was tons of fun. We had volunteers plus commissioners that helped, and it was a really positive experience. Even though we didn't have perfect weather, it was still a great evening had by all. The next one will be in October. That will be our fall movie in the park. Next week at the City Council meeting, recognition of the Senior Citizen of the Year and Lifetime Achievement Award. The mayor will be presenting that to these recipients, and that's offered by our Senior Citizen Commission. We also are hosting with the Youth and Senior Citizen Commission an intergenerational game day. That's this Saturday. It's called Get Your Game On from 1 to 3 p.m. It's a free event, and everybody is included, all ages and all abilities. So if you know anybody with a family or you love playing games, please join us and encourage everyone to attend. That's at the Encinitas Community and Senior Center. Also, the art night will be Saturday, June 3rd. Even though that's handled through our Cultural Arts Division, it's held at the Community and Senior Center, City Hall, and the Encinitas Library. But more importantly, they'll be utilizing the Encinitas VIPs, our volunteer program, to help assist with all the different elements that run that art night. And again, Saturday, June 3rd, 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. We encourage you to participate or help volunteer at any of these events, and invite your friends, family, and your community network. I think that's the biggest impact by email or by information. Everyone's included. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions at all for Manager Hamer? Nope, wonderful, thank you. Oh, Manager Norgard has a question for Manager Hamer.
No, I just wanted to back up to the sand question, picked my memory. So the San Alejo Lagoon is going to be doing some dredging soon, and that sand will go south and north of the inlet to the river mouth, and much of the sand will be used to repair the toe of the slope at the living shoreline. So the living shoreline was designed to have basically an erodible toe from wave action, and it worked flawlessly this year. So a lot of it was eroded, and it's planned that way so that when they need to dredge the lagoon, they have a place to put a lot of that sand. So it's really going to be led between state parks and the Coastal Conservancy, or I'm sorry, the Nature Collective, and that work is going to be happening over the next couple weeks. Essentially starting tomorrow through the 25th. And they do it annually-ish when they can, and a lot of the sand ends up going back on the Cardiff State Beach and the living shoreline. There's a really great article on the city's website about the living shoreline that our coastal administrator published. And I'd encourage anyone to find that article and read it. And if you can't find it, let me know and I'll send you a link.
Great, thank you. Item number 10, I don't think we have any commissioner member initiated agenda items. Item number 11, any future agenda items added by commission members? That's a no. Okay, so item number 12, commission reports roundtable. This is where we can kind of share any of our observations or thoughts or interactions that we've had in the last, since our last meeting. Maybe I'll start at the end with Commissioner Vanderhour. Anything you'd like to share?
Thank you. Yes, I volunteered at the movie night. Thank you, Manager Hamer, for organizing that. It was really super fun, and Kick Force was really cool to watch. So it emptied the room of crafts. That's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. How did the, in the past we've had, was that at Glen Park? Is that right? How did the electricity, an electrical issue work? 'Cause I know in the past we've potentially struggled with that a little bit.
Yes, thank you. Thanks to Commissioner Ritter for bringing that to my attention. Very much so. We were able to address and assess that. Plus, Public Works put a lock over the electricity. So we checked it the day before, and it made all the difference. And we'll be making sure that that is checked before showtime, so there's no surprises. Much appreciated, and just another important role you all play.
Great. And do we know approximately what we guess the attendance would be at that movie night?
I would say it was approximately 200 people. It started slow, and near the end, as it got dark, more and more people had come, so it could be 200 to 300. But it was enjoyed by all, and a really nice family evening, I felt, for all those who attended.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Quinn?
I thought the Arbor Day was a wonderful event, the planting of the trees. I thought it went really well. It was very well organized. Did they distribute all the trees?
I think they all found homes.
All right. Thank you.
Great, thank you for participating in that. I appreciate it. We all do. Commissioner O'Halloran?
Not a lot to add this meeting. I think our work plan for this year is aggressive, and really glad to see everyone ready to lean in and participate. So that's about it.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Mildahl, you're on the spot.
Just a question, and I guess it'd be Manager Hamer. Are we going to have a little powwow to talk about a smaller meeting? You mentioned that by email. We're going to do that before we all head out of here?
Yes, I know we had gone in circles on email, and it's always hard to find that right spot. So I was going to check in with each of you to see what would be a good time. Yes.
Okay, terrific.
So we can get moving. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And then I just had a sort of a funny story. When you mentioned the host at Oakcrest Park, I know her actually, Sue, and she's extremely good at chasing off coyotes with a broom. Because there's an aggressive coyote there at Oakcrest. I actually had an encounter with it recently, and I didn't witness Sue, but I did hear a story about how she would come running out of the trailer with her broom when the coyote was harassing, or I should say defending its territory, really. Anyway, so Sue is very experienced at chasing coyotes with a broom. And then just finally, unfortunately, I will have to miss next meeting, but for the best of reasons, I'm going to be in the Arctic on a National Geographic cruise, so I will not see you all next month. So.
That sounds like a great trip, but we will miss you. Commissioner Hanson?
I have nothing today.
Thank you for that report. I just wanted to add a couple of thoughts. I do think we have an aggressive work plan as well, but I think it's a great work plan. We're touching a lot of different parts and a lot of different aspects of our department, and I think we're actually hopefully impacting and making really good positive change for all of the citizens of the city. So I think it's great that we're all digging in on multiple ad hocs and really finding our way through. I think one thing that I saw was just interesting. I had a chance to just take a stroll on the Coastal Rail Trail between downtown Cardiff and all the way up through to downtown Encinitas. And I was just amazed at the natural beauty this year of all the flowers that were out. I mean, it was, we have our own super bloom going on right here. We don't have to go out to the desert to see it. And I really was, just kind of really blown away by it. It was striking to see all the different colors there. And it kind of reminded me of something, just as we think about our work. When the Coastal Rail Trail first came to all of our attention, just as citizens before any of us were commissioners, many people were against it, some people were for it. It was really kind of a super controversial type of project. And now I would argue it's, for many, many, many people, it's one of our most beloved assets and used constantly by a variety of citizens. So, I just kind of keep that in mind, because sometimes people will say something that might be perceived as a negative, and you just sort of also have to try to act in the interest of the many and as best we can. And sometimes we maybe can't even predict how wonderful things can turn out. And I think the Coastal Rail Trail is certainly one of those, because it's really been a fantastic addition that's used by many people, elderly people walking, young people pushing babies, hikers, joggers, dog walkers. It's really touched a lot of people. And if you haven't had a chance to see it recently, I'd suggest you go because the flowers are stunning. So I think without anything else to add, we can adjourn the meeting at 6:20 p.m.